welcome to the Aware Show presents Rising Stars. Rising Stars are you who have a message, a story to tell, that have been through a journey yourself, and you want to share that story with the world to inspire others, to uplift humanity. And that's what a rising star is. That's why I said that's you. And we have an absolutely incredible rising star, just a bright, bright light, who I have had in our mastermind program for the last several years, Aida Lee Martinez. Aida Lee has been through an incredible journey. She has come from a 20-year corporate background. And in her experience, in this dedication of her life to her corporate experience, her soul was calling for something different, but she had no idea what was to come. No idea. And the way the events unfolded to have her join us here today, being an incredible shaman of ritualistic ceremony to bring in the divine and manifestation, is quite the journey. So welcome, Aida. Thank you so much for joining us.
You are very welcome, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited about this opportunity to talk more about my story. And
yes. Look at you. I mean, from what I just said, from this experience, I think I met you when you were just exiting the corporate experience. And if you could start by sharing a little bit of that journey, because there's many people who are in the same position of knowing that there's more, knowing that the universe has been sending them maybe signs, preparing them for what's to come, but they just don't know how to listen or how to make that leap. So let's start back in 2020. Where were you and what was going on?
yes, that was a very pivotal year for humanity as a whole, and also for myself in many ways. You see, back in that time, I was facing some challenges, big challenges at the place I used to work. And my role was a compliance officer. So it was the nature of what I did every day to bring forth issues of any kind as an operational risk manager, involving all type of transactions, and also it was a global role. So that also involved working with different countries and regional geographies. The intensity of pandemic, as we all know, working from home, this particular job never stopped, because even though there were some accommodations, flexibilities, and as we were facing also the mandate to stay home, to go to our normal places of our daily lives, my job was required by our regulators to continue. We could not say, now we're going to put a hold on our internal reviews processes. It's in the best interest of the investors and the clients, right?
Mm.
So added to that situation, what was already brewing with some internal affairs, where I ended up becoming a whistleblower, was a catalyst for the changes that I was about to experience. So there was a lot of resistance in my side, where in one end, I had this inner knowing that it was time for change. It was time for me to say thank you. We both had an amazing journey. I gave my best. You gave me your best. But now it's time for Aida Lee to move on what a couple of years ago she had felt it was her calling for this next phase in her life.
So you already started to feel that, and yet there was stuff brewing there as a compliance officer that you saw that was not ethical. Right. And you spoke your truth. You spoke out, which is the single most difficult thing for women to do, is really, many women, is to speak your truth and not be afraid to be heard. Two different things. Yes. Right. So you did that, but at the same time, you had felt a calling that you needed to start to move on before that?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. And at that moment, the other side of the spectrum is the attachments that we have, the no wanting to let go of what is familiar. It was a career that was very fruitful, very rewarding, except those last couple of years when situations started to arise, and then the whole dynamic became very toxic for everyone involved.
Mm.
So here I am questioning myself, trying to find answers in the outer world, trying to make logic and sense of what was growing inside of me, trying to still be so anchored to what was so familiar and comfortable for so many years as a single mother and the only source of income in my home at that time. It was really difficult. And like you said, women face so many difficulties throughout our journeys, especially when we are minority, when there are still some inequalities, when there is still this stigma that in order to make it as a senior vice president level, you have to really embrace more of the masculine attributes, more of the you don't complain, you don't bring emotions or drama. You have to really act like if you're a man.
Mm.
And that becomes the standard, unfortunately, even with women that we see coming to those levels. And that's the politics. That's really the way of making it and surviving. So
Is
I
to
knew,
deny your own intuition and basically turn into the masculine, turn towards the masculine. Yes. Yes.
I knew that things needed to change for the better. So comes pandemic, I am facing all these things, and I also am facing a breakup that I was not expecting.
Oh, oh, oh.
Um,
You're laughing about it now, but that must have been painful. Yes.
it was painful. It was very painful because the way it happened, it was unexpected.
Mm.
And at the time where I'm drawing the energy and support I can get in order to provide the best support to those that depended on me, to those that were still being margined because they were part of my immediate team,
Mm.
those who suffered the consequences of the dynamics that were taking place. So that's where I found I was being lost. I got lost. I truly became this person that her career became her life, her north, her reason, her whole.
How many of us do that? Absolutely. How many of us do that? Identify through our work. Our self-worth gets entangled with our net worth. And it is a matter of survival. Yeah, it's very common, very, very common.
Very common. And, at the time, there was a force that I was feeling inside of me that led me into searching and grabbing all the information I could about forgiveness.
Hmm.
Something inside of me, an inner knowing that it was just there, was guiding me into, for you to feel peace, you need to learn forgiveness and to let go.
And so were you looking into courses, classes? How did that manifest for you?
And that's when I started looking into what is the true definition of love and forgiveness. And I came across this beautiful quote from Corinthians, from the Bible, that really expands on the definition of love, pure love, the right way of loving, which involves forgiveness, forgiveness for ourselves, forgiveness to others. And one thing led to the other. All of a sudden, I am immersed myself in all these sources of guidance and wisdom. That's when I came across for the first time Wayne Dyer.
Ah, our mentor. Mine and yours. Yes, yes.
Yes. And the moment that I started listening to his teachings, the power of intention, how to change your thoughts, how to embrace that if we are love and we come from love, we must act from a place of love and forgiveness. How he was able to reach that point in one of the most challenging times when he went to see his dad's
Memorial.
memorial.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So all of this started bringing something really new in myself.
That was a pivotal movie of Wayne's where he did a whole documentary on going to visit his father's grave, who had abandoned him, and he lived in an orphanage for many, many years, Wayne did. And that reconciliation was truly painful for him. And he documented it to show what's possible.
Yes. So that brought a question to me. You know, I'm at that time, I'm listening to luminaries like Paramahansa Yogananda, Louis Hay, Maya Angelou, Teata. Teata was one of our great North America indigenous women who made it to the White House with the purpose of going around the country to tell the stories of her people, to ensure that the legacy of her ancestors and the ways of living was not forgotten. And that's when I started asking myself the question that Wayne continues to help us with, which is, what do you need to let go of? What do you need to detach from? Don't get stuck with the story of the victim.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get stuck with the story of who did this to you, or whether or not they were unfair, or how they were capable of doing this. Forget that story. You are loved. Bring forth that divine being that is within you. And that was the spark that started bringing me to different programs like the Year of Miracles, working with Marcy, Sue, and yourself.
But you were knowing inside, you had an inner knowing. And this is really the message that I know you are conveying here, is that the universe was preparing you for what was to come. You couldn't have written it, you couldn't have explained it, but there was an inner calling and an inner knowing that you had, that was the universe preparing you for something that was to come. And then the way that it unfolded, could have never seen coming, but you started the process of letting go of negative experiences. You shared with me a call that you had with your colleagues that was such a nasty call, and you practiced forgiveness that whole time. That was kind of the catalyst for you, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. You see, one of the practices that I started incorporating right away and building what is called our power hour, our morning power hour. We wake up, we give thanks, we appreciate, we really envision a day full of grace, full of positivity and love. We also incorporate, right, our intentions, leaving always room that the universe knows best. God, Almighty God, the Great Spirit, is with us and knows what is best. So we leave that door open for surprises, all these beautiful things. And so one of the practices that I started incorporating was the Ho'oponopono, which is this Hawaiian prayer for forgiveness. And here I am in one particular phone call. And in the back of my head, as I am listening to the same story, the same things, the same drama, I am reciting that prayer.
Which is, I love you.
Love you.
Please forgive me.
With me.
The rest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
3 simple sentences.
it was so powerful for me to see how something shifted inside of me. The moment that I will consciously take a stand for myself, for allowing this divinity to come up, to be an instrument of love and peace, to take responsibility for the part that I was responsible for.
Yes, yes. Actually, it's 4 sentences. It's thank you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
And please forgive me. I'm sorry. I love you.
Yes.
Thank you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. I love you. So you're accepting the responsibility, yet whatever responsibility we have within the system, it's a beautiful, beautiful prayer.
Yes.
So you practiced that during that particular call of
Yes.
somebody on the other line spewing hatred.
I kept reciting it. Despite of what was going on and the drama that was repeating, I just kept saying, thank you. Please forgive me. I love you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
And when I felt that shift, as I am incorporating all these practices, now I am also taking a step forward with grounding, earthing, going outside, barefoot, taking advantage of everything that Mother Nature offers, the energy level that we all feel when we are aware of that connection that exists with all beings. Taking breathwork lessons, practicing cold showers, meditation.
And these are things that were familiar to you because you have a deep ancestry.
Correct. And you are right, Lisa. That is a very important point in my life and for anyone that is truly understanding the heritage of our ancestors. You see, I come from a family where my maternal grandparents were the Latino strong foundation of the family. And every event, every activity, every family gathering always was around them. And their teachings and their ways of always giving us so much wisdom, encouragement, empowerment, humble people that survived when we were going at the beginning of the 1900s through so many challenges, especially in the island of Puerto Rico, where I am from. And they came from the center of the island, from the mountains, where most of our indigenous people ended up hiding up in the mountains when colonialism was taking place. So all of these different methods, practices, belief system, rituals, embracing life, celebrating even the transitioning of our loved ones as a way of going to this spiritual realm where the spirit never dies.
Oh,
we are still connected.
These rituals and practices are so beautiful. They are what allowed these people, indigenous people, to survive and thrive. They couldn't leave. So everything that happened had to be contained within the community. As you said, the food, the passing of people, the bringing in of family. It is those practices for years and years that allowed these communities to survive and thrive, I should say.
Yes, absolutely. And, the diaspora of every culture, when we look at whether it is native, indigenous in this hemisphere, whether it is European, from Asia, African, whatever, our ancestors, our elders, our most precious ancient civilizations, they brought the gifts that now were passed down to us generations from generations. And I strongly believe, like one of my teachers and mentors, Yeye Luisa Tish, always remind us of is being conscious that you and I, everyone, we are the ancestors of the future. We are the ancestors of the future.
The modern day ancestors, yes, look at what you described with women in the corporate workplace. We are the trailblazers, the pioneers that are swinging women into equality, if you think about it.
Correct.
Yes, yes. So you had this experience of forgiveness and this experience of Wayne communicating, and you came through all of these ideas while your life was crumbling on this side. You were getting stronger on this side, and then an event happened. What happened?
So what happened was, as I am still clinging into how to continue surviving in this crazy environment, an event happened. And that's when I had a near-death experience. Waking up that particular Saturday morning, I had a very tough working week where the norm was to spend 10, 12, sometimes even 14 hours skipping meals.
Sitting in front of Zoom, doing the whole thing.
Everything is virtual. Not taking care of myself. I'm incorporating all these practices, but still I'm rushing. I'm getting up every morning just to be sure that I have my camera on for the first meeting I must attend. Sometimes I will be dragged into multiple things, multitasking. And the day came when, as I am getting up that morning, something was not feeling right. So I told myself, I went the other day to the clinic. I don't have any symptoms. I got tested for COVID, which it was the standard, right? The protocol for everyone complaining about anything to be first tested. Came back negative. Doctors could not figure out anything because according to their tests, I was good.
You were fine.
So I am getting started with my morning activities. And as I am in my bathroom, that's when the whole world came down on me. And I started experiencing things I never felt in my life before. Little did I know that my whole system was collapsing, was shutting down. I panicked.
Stress.
I started praying. I said, oh my God, there's no way I can even jump in the shower. Let me get back to my bedroom so I can wait for this to go away. Well, that's all I remember.
Oh.
That's all I remember. What ended up happening was, as I had the intention of walking back to my room, because my body was collapsing, I got unconscious and I fell. And when I fell, I hit my head with the corner of the wall.
Oh. And you were alone.
And I was home alone. It just happened that my youngest son had just left to a work assignment in upstate New York and had installed a security system in my home, knowing that I was going to be alone for a while.
Oh.
And you know, there's one synchronicity, one divine intervention. So the experience was like no other. I recall being on the floor. I thought I was dreaming. And then I realized that there was this gigantic figure standing.
Oh, you saw a figure.
Yes,
Oh.
it was all white. It was no human shape. It was more like a rectangular
Mm-hmm.
white figure. And that's when I had that connection. And then all of a sudden, I see my body from above. And all I was consciously doing was scanning the room. I remember seeing everything that was on the floor at the time.
So
I
your
remember,
scan was above your body, scanning the room, not
correct.
from your perspective. Yes.
Now, scanning the room, I see my body, I see blood, but all I felt was really this sensation of peacefulness,
Mm-hmm.
floating, light, very light. Like I was becoming part of that light that was now in front of me. I remember hearing my cats scratching the door. The door was closed, my bedroom door. And so I am there just taking inventory of everything that is where my body is and feeling just more and more connected, at peace, and light, very light.
Such an easy place to be, isn't it?
Huh.
Very easy, very easy place to slip into. It's, it disappears your fear of death, that
It
space.
absolutely,
Because if it's
absolutely,
anything like that, it's incredibly peaceful. I had
yes,
that same experience, and with my NDE, it felt so connected that there was no separation, and it was just a different space.
yes, it was.
That's his, yeah.
So you see, I always say there was an angelic force that was with me that day.
Must have been.
When I was brought back, I could not move. I thought that I had broken my neck. The pain was unbearable. That's when I started feeling things in my body.
Oh, when you said when you were brought back, were you came into your body and saw through your eyes again? Did you hear a specific message, voice, not your time, come back?
That happened when I was on the way to the hospital in the ambulance.
Mm. Okay, so I'm sorry I interrupted. Then you came back and you felt excruciating pain.
Yes, I was feeling this excruciating pain. Now I am awake. I am back in my body. I still see the white figure standing by my feet. I could not move. My immediate reaction was to touch my head. And when I touched my head, that's when I saw the blood. So then I realized that I had seen myself from above and I had seen blood on the floor. So I realized the blood was coming from the head, but I could not move. By only divine intervention is the only explanation I can really offer. I was able to crawl myself back to the room. At this point, I'm looking for my cell phone, which it was still charging on the night table. I reached the cable until the phone fell on the floor. And that's when I dialed 911.
Mm.
Because my son had installed that security system that I mentioned, that triggered a number of calls, and other individuals were notified in my family and close friends. My
What a
voice,
good son. Oh my goodness. What a good son.
yes, So now all the pain in my body, in my head, everything is just expanding.
Mm.
Even the sound of my voice, the vibration of my voice was just unbearable. So I texted like 5 people I had been texting with the night before. I still don't know how, because my vision is blurry. I cannot really articulate messages. I'm having a hard time, but I did it.
What
I
did
did.
you text them?
I need help.
Okay. Yes.
And so a friend came by who lives close. She arrived at the time the paramedics were here, but the paramedics were not able to hear me as I am calling for help. And I see on the phone they're leaving the house, and I'm desperate, trying to yell, to scream, but my voice could barely come out clearly. And every time I made an effort to yell, it was just too much pain going on. So when my friend arrived, she came inside and opened the door. By protocol, here in the state of Florida, they are not allowed to open private residences
Oh,
until they validate it's a true emergency call, just in case there's something unexpected right behind doors. So my friend said, no, 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 no. I know that she doesn't play with these things. She has to be in her room. And so they found me on the floor. On the way to the hospital, when I am in the ambulance, that's when I heard the voice. Clear, loud and clear. And the message was really very specific. What are you doing? Who are you trying to impress?
wow.
You need to take care of yourself. I gave you a purpose. Why do you insist in staying in a place that no longer values you?
Wow. Wow. You heard all of this in the ambulance. That was very clear.
Very clear.
It wasn't like you were in a place of deductive reasoning in your mind either. That had to have come from a very distant place. It wasn't like you were doing a life review of your values in the ambulance. That had to have come from a very, very deep place.
And it did come from a very deep place. I absolutely believe that. And after that life-changing event in my life, everything started to unfold. And more synchronicities started to take place. More connections with Wayne Dyer started to happen.
Well, and more so the job situation, you were able to go on a medical leave, which
Yes,
then gave you the time you needed to reassess. And that synchronistically worked out in a very miraculous way.
yes. And that's why I always tell my family, my friends, and those who know me, I know deep in my heart, in my soul, this was my wake-up call with a divine intervention. It was almost like if God was saying, okay, girl, I've been giving you signs. You are still not doing what I call you to do. Let me give you a little bit of help here.
How many of us have been in that position? And then it's the feather and it's the brick and then it's the wall. Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. So at that time, I am still going through all these changes, right? I had just come out of a hospital with a 6 staples in my head. I am not able to move, not even my head. I could not look up, I could not look down. I have my vision, memory, fogginess, issues all over. As the swell of my head starts going down, then I take notice of other parts of my body that are also going through the trauma. And I worked a little bit here, got more medical leave, tried to go back, and I am in this battle going through all these medical appointments, physical therapy, speech therapy, all these different things. They find the reason why I was going through so much struggles was because as a result of the head concussion, I had a brain injury.
Mm, hmm. Yes, yes, that makes sense. And did you ever discover why you passed out in the first place? Was it just pure stress?
They, you know, it's an important thing to acknowledge because even in the hospital, when they run all the critical testing, right, MRIs and all these things, nothing really came up except for the head concussion and then later the brain injury. But the cause of getting unconscious was just diagnosed as a bad mix of not taking good care of myself, not eating well, and having too much stress in my life.
Mm, hmm. So I know that there's sometimes when you're in so much survival, like we all were during COVID, and there was no precedent of how this was supposed to play out in corporations at all. You, like many other people, I'm sure, can identify with this story. And you had now no choice but to pay attention to what you were practicing, which was the signs, the forgiveness prayer, the all of these incredible practices, tools that you had in your tool case. Thank God you had those practices in your tool case, because now you had a whole thing you had to do. You had to leave the comfort zone of the job that you had. You had, even though it was not really comfort, it was still a career, and go on to disability and recreate your life in. And then there was retribution that happened for you many, many months later that you could never have even.
So during that period that prior to my NDE, I was going through bringing forward those issues. There were some consequences with at the executive level, but those individuals that were part of creating this toxic environment and that were really trying to manage me out were still there. So this brought a new level of engagements and what was then really a very weakened environment by those that were still standing with me. And later, as I'm going through my NDE recovery, I learned that all of a sudden there seems to be some claims that needed to be addressed involving myself as I'm going through
My goodness.
my healing process. So, you know, at the beginning, it was very uncomfortable because I could not understand how things that happened when I was still out on medical leave had anything to do with. How would I be put in a place of blame or responsibility?
Mm-hmm.
But the truth always comes to the surface, and that took its course. The important thing for me at the time, Lisa, is that because of the seeds, because of the power of that divine intervention, and like you said, because of my awareness and my opening to really allow these changes to take place within myself, to go back to the place of love, to go back to the place of taking care of myself and living from a place of joy, no matter what, that brought me into this completely new level of living that changed for the better, where I really was like the serpent, shading everything,
Mm,
shading my past, shading the traumas, shading whatever I felt was wrongdoings or injustice, shading even limiting beliefs. So I gave birth to this enlightened version of who I always was, like you are, like everyone is, coming from that place of love and divine connection and
And you,
recognizing.
yes, and you
Yeah.
followed that. You told me a story about going into a park one day, just being on a walk. And
Yes,
please tell us that story, because this is another example of following divine guidance.
yes. And as an example of one of those synchronicities and amazing experiences that started unfolding so naturally and so magically on my path, I was invited to do a meditation grounding ourselves with Mother Earth in one of our amazing, beautiful parks here in Florida. So I am in that state park with a few friends. And as we are doing our meditation, they're sharing information about some upcoming ceremony that they were going to attend. So I am there listening. I had no idea what they were talking about. So by courtesy, they mentioned, say, hey, Aida Lee, if you would like to join us, we can put you in contact with the coordinator of the event. It's going to be led by a Native American indigenous medicine man. And so the moment that I heard Native indigenous medicine man, my blood felt something powerful, special.
A
So
memory. Mm,
yes,
mm.
on it. So I get the invitation to join them on this sacred ceremony. And I still have no idea what it is about, but I'm trusting. Right now, I'm learning what it means to go with the flow, what it means to be open to possibilities, what it means to really follow the passion of your heart, what brings that sense of joy and peace to your being. And so there I am, surrounded by people that are like minded, that are from all walks of life, and I am meeting for the first time this amazing shaman from the Lakota
Ah,
in the United.
yes, yes.
It was a wonderful medicine ceremony.
Mm. And then you, from that experience, led you to so many different, well, his whole point was soul retrieval, right? You went through a ritual.
Yes,
He
I
took you
had the
through.
opportunity to have a one-on-one um, session, and as I am still in the middle of recovering from all these things that the head concussion, right, brought into my life. I was still having some issues with movement and having clarity and memory issues, not being able to sleep. I had a list, Lisa, of like
Wow.
10 medications, prescribed medications that I would take every day. I was experiencing PTSD, one of my main doctors always explained is this particular disability, it's a invisible one.
Yes. And
Maybe
very slippery diagnosis.
it is,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
that is not any less from any other major trauma that we may experience, where all of a sudden we start having anxiety attacks and things that we never felt before. And that's where I was.
And the
So
overwhelm and all that comes along with the traumatic brain injury and the language and the relationships and everything. It's one of the biggest sleepers out there. And I'm a huge proponent of addressing the TBI. Yes.
there's still so much to be found, right? To be really
Yes.
understood from a science perspective. So I am having this special session with the shaman, and he does a ritual on me. And what he explained is the belief that when individuals like ourselves experience that, and we are able to come back, it's what they call the soul being in alignment with the body. And when there is not a proper alignment, then the body is not able to function. And we are facing these blockages. So he did the ritual on me, and I left that night being able to move my neck without pain.
Oh my
Being
goodness.
able to have my first night sleep after my event occurred without having any insomnia issues. And so I decided to stop taking every prescribed medications, only the supplements and vitamins that were meant for my holistic well-being, for my brain function, for the things that were really good. I left.
That
I
amazing.
said, this is it. And up until now, it's been like what another luminary in our times, Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Yes.
Bruce Lipton, so many that give us the gift of wisdom and knowledge, of understanding that the God Almighty, that great spirit, equipped us, each one of us, with the ability to heal ourselves, to heal others. That energy is all around us and is all it is.
Yes, yes, yes. And since then, you have come home to your self, to your body, to your ancestry, to this journey that you've been on since then has been you discovering and being led to really learning all about your own soul and your own story. And synchronistically, you met somebody who was writing a chapter or who asked you to write a chapter on a book called Signs and Synchronicities.
Yes.
And that was a synchronicity within itself, but you now have a chapter in this book, Signs and Synchronicities, that's available on Amazon. And that's the chapter in the book is about a whole different story of signs and synchronicities that have to do with your son, right?
Yes. So in this particular book, the story that I am sharing, it's when my youngest son, Alex, had a motorcycle accident, which occurred on the same day that we were paying tribute to my mother, who had passed away 6 years ago at that time. So we had spent the day sharing anecdotes, sharing pictures, sharing so much. She was a big influence in our lives. She was an amazing grandmother to my children. And so it was very important to us to continue our traditions as usual. So that day, it's no different from any other celebration. And later that evening, that's when I get the call. Your son is in the emergency room. You better come to the hospital right away.
Oh, that is the hardest call as a parent.
Yes, it is. And it just happened that I was just walking by my memorial corner in my home.
Oh,
I got the call. So I have the phone, I'm looking at my flowers, my mother's picture, everything I had, right? And the only words that I could articulate were, is my son alive? And the phone got disconnected.
oh, oh,
I tell more about the story
yes, in the
in
book.
this book.
That's a great cliffhanger there. You have to get the book, Signs and Synchronicities. And there's 49 other authors who have contributed as well. And the the collaborator of everything, of the entire book, Allison has quite the story as well. That it's just, the synchronicities are endless, and you know, anyone listening can relate so well to your story because of, just think of the signs of the synchronicities that you have maybe missed in your life. And before they get to these places where they really command your attention, it's time to take a look and maybe read about others. And Ida has the wonderful opportunity to put her entire story in a book that is going to be published soon, through Balboa Press, and we're working on that, you know, together. And through the mastermind, she's expressing her titles and so forth, which is incredible. And her website is called getinspiredworld.com. If you want to connect with Ida Lee and maybe share a little bit of your story, or that you heard this on the podcast or the Rising Stars YouTube channel with the Aware Show. And anytime you're going through a massive change, this is the sign that you are looking change in the face and you might need to pay attention. Is that what you'd like to leave people with, to really understand what that means? Take a look at it. Instead of crisis and catastrophe and devastation, there might be a huge message in there for you.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And having gone through myself this pivotal time in my life, the changes that occurred, having really learned how to love myself, even with the new things that were not necessarily considered normal, it's an important lesson. You see, Wayne always spoke about this, and so many others too have shared so much wisdom. Life is a gift. We don't know about tomorrow. We don't even know 1 hour from now. Let's embrace our lives as we are. Where we are, that's where we needed to be.
Yes.
But let's embrace each moment with consciously, really taking the stand for a better version of ourselves to come forward, to let go of the story that only focuses on the drama, on the victim role, on who did what, and to learn, like Jesus said, and many others, forgiveness and love. What does that mean, and how we can start shifting behaviors, shifting our belief system, shifting whatever it takes so that we start living a life that is more meaningful, that is more enjoyable, and that is coming from a place of joy and love, no matter what is happening. You see, we may not have control over circumstances or what's happening around us, but we do have control on what we decide to do or say on every situation. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, we may have moments where it may be difficult to really have a grasp and hold on to all the excitement and all the beautiful things. But don't allow the negative emotions or the stories of the past to be in the driver's seat. We have a choice. Always.
Well said. Absolutely well said. I know people are going to want to reach out to you, Ida. And again, her website is getinspiredworld.com. And there's a way to stay in touch. You can email Ida Lee if the story really resonated with you. The book is called Signs and Synchronicities. You can get that on Amazon. And we'll look forward to your next book coming out soon. Thank you so much. You are such a joy. I love it. I love it. And again, if you want the opportunity to also be a rising star and be interviewed on the Aware Show's YouTube channel for our rising stars, please reach out. You can go to theawareshow.com/rising stars. Thank you so much, Ida Lee. I'm so honored to know you. I'm so grateful for our connection with Wayne Dyer. He is guiding us all from the other side. We've heard that from so many people, and we'll continue to do the good work in the world. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and excited for everything that lies ahead, and always here to be of service. So.
Absolutely. Until next time, let us all stay aware.